are about to have the keys to the kingdom. This is what our University of California Master Gardeners use to, when people call and they say, we have a problem, and we use this. It's been set up with IPM, the least damage to you or your environment. And so right now we have the pink tree in there, and that is for the public and for us to use. There are other slides here for farmers, for researchers. We want to use the lady walking under the pink tree here. So we're going to touch this one, and we're going to go to the next slide. And we have home, garden, turf, and landscape pests. So now you're going to be able to come up, and on the first batch of pests of home, structures, people, and pets, we have 3 wonderful categories. We have pests that sting, bite, or injure. Things like fleas would be under here, wasps, and what you're going to see here is bed bugs, wasp things, mosquitoes, poison oak, scorpions, spiders, and some of these you see QT on it. It's a red QT. That's quick tips. That's the IPM. So it's very helpful, and they even have about brown recourse or have a bee swarms. So it's like, what do I do if I have brown recluse, or what do I do if I have black widow spiders, or these spiders, or what about head lice, flies? So very useful to you. Likewise, wood destroying fabric, termites and earwigs, the quick tips for that. We had to talk about that this morning. Flies, food storage pests. My first experience with the UC was that we had moths flying around, and it seems that they got in a basket of nuts at our house. And so Indian meal moths were using that, laying eggs in the nuts, flying around, and we were trying to figure out where in the world these moths are coming from. Thanks to the UC and their tips, we were able at that time to figure out what to do. We're going to go back. And finally, they have vertebrate pests like birds or mammals or squirrels or gophers, reptiles, problems in those areas. So now we're going to go down to the next major category, the pests in the gardens and landscapes. And in there we have these lists of flowers, fruit trees, lawn and turf, trees and shrubs and vegetables. So now I'm going to go to the vegetable one, touch on that, and let's pick, I'm going to pick cabbage. So now, a lot of times in these they'll have cultural tips which will help you be able to grow them better. Some of these will have all the information to grow the thing. And then on the one side over here, they'll have insects. It's a vertebrate pests. This whole line is that. And I happen to know that cabbages have aphids, and so I went to cabbage aphid right here. And oh, look at all this. It says identification, and then it says life cycle and damage and management. And then over here we have pest notes and aphid eating insects in action. You can actually watch these bugs if you're really into that, killing other aphids. Just get that revenge out and feel really good. And then you can hose them off, and they can actually get funguses, so it shows you hosing them off. Now if we go up to the top of this page, you'll see that we have this box almost like library books, and in this, here you go, the second one down says quick tip, and then if you want to download it as a PDF, is right there. So I'm going to go to quick tip really quick on aphids, and it says here they can curl the leaves, and sometimes you'll find plants like fruit trees with curled leaves and there's nothing in it. We know as master gardeners that it had aphids and something killed it. Your beneficials got in there, and so it left it curled, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. They do tap into plants and just completely start sucking from the plant, and they do not have a stop. So you often get sticky honeydew, which will make a black mildew on the honeydew. So if you come and you're walking down a street and suddenly your feet are sticking, there is a sucking insect up there. It could, and we know that it could be an aphid, it could be scale, it could be spider mites, it might be, but there's a sucking insect. Secondly, it rarely kills the plant, and it can be washed off with water. When they're high, the natural enemies come and feed, and then you don't need the pesticides. And when the pesticides are necessary, I love to use insecticidal soap. The oils, if you use light horticultural oil, it cannot be used at all over 90 degrees. It will turn your plant into potato chips. It will crisp them. They will destroy them. So I am much fonder of insecticidal soap. Yes, that is that horrible soap that when you were children in the old days smelled really, was very thick, viscous, yellow, and smelled funky. And that is the type of soap. It's high in fats, and they use that, and the aphids breathe through their body, and the soap seals around them and makes it so they suffocate. What I do is I spray the insecticidal soap, and then I use a rubber glove and I wiggle it around, kind of give the plant a massage. And depending on how well I put the soap on to dripping, and I wiggle it and make sure it gets in every crevice, I get very, very little aphid survival. We actually in the nursery had a table, like a 10-foot table, and about 15 feet long and 10 feet wide, of roses, bare root roses, and they got aphids, a lot of them. And they used Neem. Neem didn't stop it. They killed some, but you all know within 1 week they're all back. So they said, well, this isn't working. I said, let's use soap. Only one plant had aphids after I finished, and I went back and did that one, and it was all gone. So insecticidal soap works really well. Aphids like lush new growth. It can be helpful to use alfalfa as a fertilizer on your roses, 1 or 2 cups, because it grows slower. It builds up on flowering plants, and ants protect. So what can you do to reduce it? You can knock it off with water. Actually, if you get them before the aphids, say you have cabbage and you just don't want to deal with it, there is something called row cover. And row cover covers it up, and they can't get in, but the water can get through from the outside. So row cover is wonderful. Aluminum foil looks like the sky, and they can't find your plant. So wait for hot weather. Some aphids are heat tolerant, and they will be gone. So you often see them in the spring. And of course, we have our wonderful beneficials we talked about, and there's a long list in this. And then what about pesticide? And use non-chemical first. There's your IPM, and they're telling you can use the soap and the oils. And if it's necessary, pick the safest one. There is Neem, and there are pyrethriums. I tend to avoid pyrethriums. We're having a lot of comments about it is a pesticide. Neem is Neem is a pesticide. So I thought it's organic. All these things should be trebly safe. And I sprayed Neem, and it was a windy day, and I was feeling pretty sick for a couple days. And so where would you spray? You'd be back, and you'd be spraying away from yourself. You do not want to spray into the wind and get it all over yourself. One person came in back to the nursery, and he reeked of chemicals because he wanted to use weed killers, and he used it on a hose and sprayer, which you do not do. And he used it into the wind, and he was reeking of chemicals, and I was thinking just this horrible feeling of fear for him, because you do not get chemicals on you. You think it's safe, and it's not. You minimize the exposure to yourself. So use a narrow range of horticultural oils, such as the very viscous supreme or superior oils. There is the oil you use on your fruit trees for winter when they're dormant to seal bugs. Is a very good one, but if you use it on your plants, it will seal them. So you must use the light horticultural oils if you're going to do it. And they don't kill aphids in there in the leaves. They say prune them. I just go in with soap and take my fingers, if it's not the whole tree, and I just get the soap inside there, kind of unfold them, put soap on it, and then just rub it, and they're gone. Because I don't like to prune out, because every leaf is your strength for your tree. It makes food for it. So, but if it's a really bad one, you can prune it out. Systemic fertilizer, it means it gets into the plant and makes it poisonous, which means it's poisonous for bees, the neonicotide family. So unfortunately, you put those on your vegetables and you'll get yourself pretty sick. So first of all, you do not use those fertilizers. Secondly, it makes things toxic. They also will kill the beneficials. So if you want to protect your honeybees, you don't use those type of fertilizers on your roses and on your flowers. You go and you let the beneficials, and you deal with your self-spraying. Read more about aphids. Minimize polluting our waterways, and read the product carefully. And then this quick tip, then you now know what to do. And so it does not talk about ants here. Ants can have, that's in the main section, but we can do it several ways. You can put ant stakes out and kill the colony. You can put tanglefoot on some blue tape, put outwards, and stop it from getting up. You can also prune all the branches off fences so they can't go around it. And the last thing you can do is make sure that they can't get to your tree or prub, so they don't like to cross cinnamon either. So but that's a lot of cinnamon, so I use that in my house. It's a nice smelling way to make it uncomfortable for them to come into your house. And so we're going to go back to the very beginning. Start at the very beginning where I'm just going to come in where the pink tree is, going back, and I say to myself, I don't know any of these bugs. So I'm going to go up to the banner where it has the blue for the UC IPM, and up in the topmost right corner is a box, okay? And I'm going to hit that box, and I'm going to type aphid in. And then I'm going to search for it. The first one that came up was Aphids Management Guidelines and Pest Notes. That is what you're looking for, pest notes, because that's written for the public. As I start going down, though, we have more things, and what you will find is alfalfa culture for farmers. You're going to find for peach leaf curl aphid. These are cotton. These are farmers, and they will also have the latest research on what they're doing in aphids. So this can be really gnarly if pest notes are down about 3 or 4 pages, but usually it's in the first page somewhere. So do look for pest notes for being a member of the public. So I'm going to go back up here to pest notes, and this will get it. So you have many ways to get in this system. The last thing I want to talk about, which is really important, is that we just talked about IPM. So I'm going to go into the pink tree, and now on the sidebar, you will find there's a natural enemies gallery. In this situation is this wonderful book now that there's actually a natural enemies handbook. And you can actually, it's a lovely inch and a half book that will give you all pictures of all the mugshots of all the good bugs. And then as you go down, under additional resources, you see poster, meet the beneficials. And in here is a lovely poster where you can actually see the things we talked about when we talked about IPM. Really great resource for you. At the bottom here, we are now looking at all the predators. So I'm going to go to assassin bugs. And of course, now you see the greyhound-like look of the assassin bug. So it's all here available for you to be able to see. So enjoy. You now have the kings of the kingdom. You have the ability to do your own searching for diseases, because we have insects on one side of the column and the other side had diseases or environmental problems by the insect, or by the disease. So enjoy. It's here for you to use, and it's free.